Dear learners, I again welcome you all for this online session of parental preparations. As in my previous lecture, I have discussed the general classification of small volume parenteral and large volume parenteral. Now we will see the type of small volume parenteral and large volume parenterals in detail. So let us begin with the lecture.
Now these are the learning outcomes. After attending this lecture, you will be able to understand the type of small volume parenteral and large volume parenterals. Now, first is the definition. As I discussed in my previous lecture, the difference between small volume parenteral and large volume parenteral. So, you all know what is small volume parenteral. So, it is an injection that is packaged in a containers labeled as containing 100 ml or less. And what is large volume injection, or you can say parenteral? So, it is an injection that is packaged in a container labeled as containing more than 100 ml, or you can say 101 to 1000 ml. Now, we will see first the type of small volume parenterals. So, the types of small volume parenteral. So, you can see over here, these are the type of small volume parenterals. It includes the solution, suspension, emulsion and dry powder are the small volume parenteral preparation. Here we have to study the parenteral solution, the parenteral suspension, parenteral emulsion and dry powder. Now we will see one by one in detail. So this is the first one is the parenteral solution. So what is parenteral solution? So typically it is used for delivering medications, or you can say the drugs, at a controlled infusion rate. These are the examples of parenteral solutions. You can say the commonly used solutions are 5% dextrose, 45% normal saline, or you can say the 5% dextrose with a normal saline. If you want to take dextrose, you can take it 5% and with 45% of the normal saline, or you can say the 5% dextrose with the normal saline. Now, why dextrose? So here dextrose contributes the glucose. It will meet the energy need, or you can say energy requirement. And the saline means the sodium, means electrolytes. So it will maintain the fluid balance, or you can say the cellular functions. So these are the parenteral solutions. Now the next is parenteral suspension. So first, you should have a question. Why there is a need of parenteral suspension? So, and when we require parenteral suspension? So when the drugs are insoluble in the conventional solutions, at that time we require suspension. Here we can decrease in parenteral suspension, or you can say as compared to solution, in suspension we can decrease the reactions like hydrolysis or oxidation. Because here the drug is present in a solid form and the elimination of hepatic first pass effect. That's why we require parenteral suspension, and it is more advantageous than solution for some, you can say, particular drugs. Now what is suspension? So it should be sterile, pyrogen free, stable, resuspendable, syringeable, injectable, or you can say isotonic and non-irritating. As you know what is suspension, what is the requirement of parenteral suspension? As we have seen in the requirements of parenteral preparations, but here it is a suspension, so it should be resuspendable. Otherwise, all the requirement should be same. Now, suspensions. So usually it contains between 0.5% to 5% of the solids. Means in the solution there should be 0.5 to 5% of the solid, and it should have a particle size less than 5 micrometer for intramuscular. See, the parenteral suspension is given by two routes, intramuscular route and subcutaneous route. So this suspension have the solids in this concentration range, and it should have the particle size less than 5 micrometer for intramuscular, or you can say subcutaneous administration. For example, certain antibiotic preparations. Here you can say the example like a penicillin G. In penicillin G, the concentration of solid is up to 30%, because some drug shows more stability, more efficacy, or you can say safety in a emulsion form rather than solution form. So at that time we require parenteral emulsion, for because some drugs shows more stability, efficacy, or you can say safety in a emulsion form rather than suspension form, or you can say solution form. That's why we require emulsion. Now what are the parenteral emulsion? Now we will see the parenteral emulsion. So again the same question should arise. Why we require parenteral emulsion? Parenteral emulsions are again sterile, stable, non-pyrogenic, non-toxic, isotonic, you can say syringeable, injectable, non-irritating, but thermodynamically unstable, heterogeneous biphasic system. It contains two immiscible liquid phase. From that, one is aqueous phase and made stable by adding an emulsifying agent. You can say parenteral emulsion also available in the two type of formulation, oil in water, or you can say water in oil. Then again water in oil in water, or you can say oil in water in oil. So these are the type of parenteral emulsions. Now these are some example of parenteral emulsions. I have just taken the example of the drugs. You can see over here, this is a propofol emulsion 1%. Here this is a 500 milligram per 50 ml is the content. So this type of emulsion are the marketed preparation, you can see. Now these are the example, diazepam and physostigmine salicylate. So diazepam, when it is used as a parenteral emulsion, it shows a lower toxicity than solution form, and for physostigmine salicylate, the emulsion is more stable than in solution form. Next is dry powder. So when we require a dry powder, as we have seen the solution, suspension as well as parenteral emulsions, but why we require a powder? So some drugs are not stable in water at that time. So due to instability in water, many drugs are formulated as a dry powders to be reconstituted prior to administration. So you can say here with the dry powder we have to supply the sterile water for injection to make a solution, or you can say suspensions of the injection. So we have to supply the sterile water for injection, but it is not more stable in water. So it is prepared by lyophilization process. What is lyophilization process? Now what is lyophilization process? You can say it is a process of separating a solid substance from solution by freezing the solvent and evaporating the ice under vacuum. By this process, the dry powder is made. Now, dry powder means you can say the reconstituted solutions can be given by intravenous, or you can say intramuscular route. And the suspension, it is about solution, but the suspension is only given by intravenous route. For example, antibiotics. Here you can say penicillin, ampicillin are the example of the dry powder. Now this all about small volume parenterals. Now we will move toward the types of a large volume parenterals. So the types of a large volume parenteral. So the first one is hyperalimentation solution, then cardioplegic solutions, irrigating solutions and peritoneal dialysis solution. Now we will see one by one in detail. Now the first one is hyperalimentation solutions. So what is hyperalimentation solutions and when we can give it? So administration of nutritionally adequate solution through a catheter. Catheter means a type of tube, you can say, which will flow the fluids into a vena cava, used in which cases we have to use hyperalimentation, or you can say this kind of large volume parenteral. So in case of long-term coma, means when these situations are very severe, at that time we require this kind of solution. When the patients are not able to intake drugs, or you can say any medicament directly, and in the emergency conditions we require this solution. For example, there is a coma, then severe burns, or you can say severe gastrointestinal syndrome. So this is all about hyperalimentation solutions. Now the next is total parenteral nutrition. What is total parenteral nutrition? When we require all type of nutrition, it's known as total parenteral nutrition. So a method of feeding patients by infusing a mixture of all necessary nutrients into a circulatory system, thus bypassing the gastrointestinal tract. So you can say which kind of elements, or you can say content, we require for total parenteral nutrition. So these are the source and these are the content. So we require calories. So as I said previously, dextrose will provide the energy source. So we require dextrose. Then crystalline amino acids provide nitrogen. Then electrolytes, we require electrolytes. So we can give sodium, potassium, calcium or phosphate. These are the required electrolytes. Then vitamins, we can give any vitamin like water soluble and fat soluble vitamin. Then traces of zinc and manganese. So these elements we require, and all kind of these sources provide total parenteral nutrition. And here also we require this kind of solution when patients are in a very severe condition. Now the next is cardioplegic solutions. Now what is cardioplegic solutions? So this LVP, you can say when we can use this. So this type of large volume parenteral used in heart surgery. You can say this kind of preparation used in open heart surgery to reduce the diastolic arrest. So it is used to prevent injury to myocardium during reperfusion, as well as to maintain the bloodless operating field, or you can say means this kind of preparation we can give during open heart surgery to prevent diastolic arrest. Now this preparation can be administered in a cold form, and here see this is a requirement of a cardioplegic solutions. It should be slightly alkaline to compensate metabolic acidosis, and it should be given in a cold form. These are the requirement of this kind of solution. Means what? This kind of solution is used only after addition of sodium bicarbonate. we have to add sodium bicarbonate, then and then only we can use this kind of solution, because here we have to adjust the alkaline pH. Otherwise, it will produce the acidosis. You can see over here, this is a 20 ml preparation of a cardioplegia infusion. So, this is a marketed preparation. Now, we will see the next is a peritoneal dialysis solution. So, what is peritoneal dialysis solution? And when we require peritoneal dialysis solution, so we require this kind of solution when our kidney can't function adequately. So this is the example you can see over here. This kind of preparation is available as a peritoneal dialysis solution. Now see, as per definition, what is it? So it infused continuously into the abdominal cavity. Means what? During peritoneal dialysis, a cleansing fluid flows through a tube, that you can say the catheter, into the part of the abdomen, and bathing peritoneum. Means what? What is peritoneum? It's a lining of your abdomen. So it acts as a filter and it removes the waste products from your blood and are then continuously withdrawn. Means after a set of period of time, the fluid with the filtered waste product flows out of your abdomen and is discarded. So this kind of solution is used when the kidney can't function properly. So this is all about peritoneal dialysis solution. The last is irrigating solutions, or you can say irrigation solutions. So what are irrigation solutions? So it is used to irrigate, flush and aid in a cleaning body activities and wounds. You can say generally in tooth treatment this kind of solution are used. Now certain IV solution may be used as irrigating solution, but the solutions designed as a irrigating solution should not be used parenterally. This is very important. Means you can use IV solution as a irrigation solution, but irrigation solution should not be used parenterally. So these are the type of small volume parenteral as well as large volume parenteral. Now in next lecture we will see the remaining in detail. Thank you, dear learners. If you have any doubt, you can contact me on this number. You can email me on this email ID. Wish you a very happy learning.